Good evening, everyone. Welcome again, and welcome to those who have joined us recently to the, first of all, the Committee of the Whole meeting for April 22nd at 7 p.m. I'd like to call the meeting to order at this time. Do we have any public comment for the Committee of the Whole? Hearing none or seeing no cards, we'll move on to presentation by our elementary math presentation by Mrs. Donato, Carrie Gutschall, and Caitlin Steinling, and anybody else who's here that wants to talk about elementary math. So, the floor is yours. Thank you for being here.
All right, good evening. Thank you for having us. So as you know, I am Nikki Donato. I'm the Director of Curriculum and Instruction, and with me this evening is Carrie Gutschall, who teaches 5th grade math at Newville Elementary, and Caitlin Steinling, who is a 1st grade teacher at Oak Flat. So we're going to walk through what we focus on when it comes to math at the elementary level, and really a lot of this is the whole way through. So we're going to go through curriculum aligned to the PA core math standards, concrete, representational, and abstract. We'll explain what that means. We're going to talk a little bit about fact fluency, solving problems and explaining reasoning, and how reading, comprehension, and writing all go into that. And finally, academic growth and achievement. And I'll just touch a little bit on the reading, comprehension, and writing component. I can tell you back many years ago when I was a 3rd grade teacher and we would take standardized tests, there were students who would do really well in reading, and there were students who maybe would do well in math and not so well in reading. And that is no longer the case. So that changed probably 10, 12 years ago, where the math has so much reading and comprehension in it that you really need to be able to do well in those skills to be successful on the math standardized test as well. So I'm going to quickly go through curriculum maps, not for all grades and not for all units. This is just an example of 1st grade, pointing out that the priority standards are the ones that we focus on. These come directly from the Department of Education. So this is a 1st grade map. You can see the learner outcomes bulleted close to the bottom are the key focus areas that we're looking for at the end of a unit that students should be able to do. 3rd grade, just another quick example here for you. I want you to take a look at the priority standards specifically on this one and that first verb that is there, to represent. So you'll hear a lot about our students and how they represent different things this evening when both Ms. Steinley and Mrs. Gutschall present, but that is part of many standards from the state. And then finally, just another example of a 5th grade math unit. And the learner outcomes on this one are focused around multiplication and division. So what is concrete, representational, and abstract? So it's this 3-stage instructional method that really is focused on our students developing a deep understanding. And that deep understanding starts as early as kindergarten. And the deeper that understanding is, the better they retain information. And when they get into those higher level math courses at the high school, they truly have an understanding of what they're doing and not just memorizing algorithms and plugging equations in to solve. So they have that deeper understanding. It moves the learning from that tangible experience to more abstract in a systematic way. It bridges the gap between concrete manipulation and that symbolic notation. So the benefits, I talked about deeper understanding and not just memorizing rules. Definitely an increase in engagement. So students are more hands-on and moving things around and enjoying their learning as they're drawing and representing the skills that they're learning. Improved retention, I mentioned, and it also builds a lot of confidence as they work through this approach from concrete, representational to abstract. So breaking it down a little bit more for you and to let you know what each of these really are doing. In the concrete, students are using real objects and manipulatives to explore and solve those problems. Some examples are using blocks to add or subtract, measuring length with rulers or cubes, and sorting objects by color or shape. Students then go into a representational stage where those drawings and diagrams and visual models are used to help them represent and visualize those mathematical ideas. So number lines are an example of representation. Creating bar models to solve word problems are another example. And drawing circles to represent counters in an addition problem would be another example of representational. And from there, we move into the abstract, which is what most of you are probably familiar with, because that's where you started and ended, probably when you were in school, with the abstract side of math. So when we get to this, students are using those numbers and those symbols, and they're solving those problems. They understand concepts without relying on those physical objects or drawings. So remembering that concrete and representational are really a scaffold for us to get the students to that abstract. And then again, some examples of what the abstract is: solving a simple addition equation, long division, and those algebraic expressions. So I'm going to turn it over to Ms. Steinley. She's going to walk you through a typical lesson at a 2nd grade level, and then Mrs. Gutschall is going to do the same at a 5th grade level with the warm-up, the instructional activities, the lesson synthesis, and a cool-down.
Thank you. All right, so as Mrs. Donato mentioned, all 4 of these components are in every lesson that we do each day with the students. All right, so again, I'm talking about a 2nd grade lesson tonight. I actually just completed this with my class about 2 weeks ago. It's in our Unit 7, adding and subtracting with tens and hundreds. Just some skills the students needed previously that are going to help them with this lesson: fact fluency within 20, place value within 1,000, skip counting by tens and hundreds, and double-digit addition and subtraction with and without regrouping. So I just wanted to point out some common misconceptions when it comes to adding and subtracting, especially when we're adding and subtracting bigger numbers. When I started 9 years ago, kids were using counters to help them count, and a common misconception is that they only need those counters when they're adding or subtracting small groups of numbers, like 5 plus 3 in Mrs. Donato's example. We have come to learn through the CRA model that this allows students to conceptualize what they are doing, and they are allowing themselves to solve it abstractly or mentally. But by first going through the concrete stage and the representational stage, they're truly understanding the value of each place and what it means to regroup. So the conversations that I have with my students are a lot more in-depth now that we're allowing them to show their work in different ways. So this was the warm-up for the lesson. Find the value of each expression mentally. So students were asked to do this in their head. Students are working on skip counting groups of 10. Our discussion in this lesson led students to understand that we're only changing the tens place in these expressions. The ones place and hundreds place stays the same because we're adding groups of 10. So as you can see in the student's example, they didn't need any pictures or models drawn because the student was able to skip count, for example, 34 plus 20. She was able to count up knowing that was 54. So this, again, was our warm-up, a number talk in a sense that we were just having a discussion. In the first activity, in the same lesson, we're showing it with base 10 blocks. So those drawings that you see up there in the picture are representational of the base 10 blocks students would be using to solve. So our big squares represent 100, the smaller rectangles represent tens, and the circles represent the ones. In partners, students were asked to add or subtract groups of tens and hundreds based on what they rolled with one of our dice in the classroom. They used their base 10 blocks drawings to comprehend what was happening to their numbers. So if they were adding, they drew more blocks. If they were subtracting, they took away blocks. And as before in the warm-up, only one of the places is changing in their answer, either the tens place or the hundreds place. And just to point out, I wanted you to make sure you noticed on number 4 and 5 that students are then asked to include an equation. So in the same problem or same activity, students are moving from just representational to then starting to include some abstract in there, which is the equation you see at the bottom.
What grade is this?
This is 2nd grade. Activity 2 in the same lesson, how many blocks with base 10 blocks and equations. Here we are including the reading comprehension component. So now students are working with similar skills but in word form. That first one says May has 2 hundreds, 2 tens, and 3 ones. Lynn has 4 hundreds. Represent their values with base 10 blocks or diagrams. What is the value of their blocks altogether? Show your thinking. So now students are working with the same skills. They're representing the amounts and following the steps of the story problem. Each question states represent blank value with base 10 blocks or diagrams. So it is asking them to do that. As you can see from this student's example, she included the equation and her picture. These are still questions from the same activity, still including the reading comprehension component. They're representing the amounts and following the steps to each word story. Notice now that students are asked to solve and show their thinking in a way that works for them. So now the directions are saying what is the value of their blocks together, show your thinking. This student grasped the concept of the lesson because by number 5 and 6, she was just doing an abstract equation and was able to solve mentally in her head. As you can see at the bottom of number 4, I was showing students the abstract vertical way to add and subtract during each problem in this lesson. So students were shown both representationally and abstractly with a horizontal equation and a vertical equation. The cool down, this expectation is that students are doing this independently and it's treated as an exit ticket, just to make sure students are understanding this lesson. So for this cool down, students are compiling strategies from the lesson and solving in a way that works best for them. So they were given 2 students groups of blocks. What is the value of their blocks altogether? Write an equation to show your thinking. If they need to draw another picture, if they need to solve using a different strategy, there is a space there for them to work, but they're also asked to write the equation at the end. Just some takeaways for myself from using the concrete, representational, and abstract. The goal is student independence. So my goal for my students is that they're working independently. If that means they're drawing using a representational model of the number 225, they're drawing a representational model of the number 225. The CRA allows a bridge to complex math, so once students have the understanding of a meaning of number and their values, it can help them when solving complex equations. For example, today we started solving triple-digit addition problems that had to regroup in 2 places. So students are now understanding what it means to compose and to regroup because we started with pictures and a representation in their mind. The differentiation CRA allows, it allows students to solve in different ways that make them feel successful. As you saw in my student sample, she understood all 3 methods and was able to use all 3 throughout one lesson. Not all students need to start with concrete manipulatives. Some are ready to draw pictures, some are ready to write an abstract equation, but allowing students the option increases our level of discussion and we can share different ways to solve different math problems. Just some input on what we do with fact fluency in the classroom. We have sets of individual flashcards. The examples are up there for you. We start with plus zeros, 10 plus 0, plus 1s, 9 plus 1, 2 plus 2, 9 plus 2, making 10s, 5 plus 5, doubles facts would be 5, making 10, I guess, was also a double. 6 plus 4, doubles being 5 plus 5, and 10 plus being 10 plus 6. So students have their own set of individual flashcards in the classroom. Students are allowed access to iReady games and lessons that they are on daily. We have a Fact Fluency Math and Practice book that provides teachers with different games we can play. And something I enjoy personally from IM Math is every 4 to 6 lessons in a unit, we are given a center day, which is provided a checkpoint or additional practice problems for students to practice, but it allows teachers a little more flexibility with reviewing activities, spiraling activities, practicing fact fluency. And I truly treat that as a student-led day. Whatever the students need from me, they're getting from me on a center day. So additional work in different areas is where we try to go with that. I'll pass it off to Mrs. Guttrell.
Well, they make this look really easy. I'm the amateur with my note cards here, so It's nice to be with you tonight. My name is Carrie Gutschall, and I teach 5th grade math at Newville. This slide gives you an overview of all of the state standards that are addressed in the lesson that I'm going to share with you. The lessons always start with a warm-up. This warm-up in particular is a notice and wonder, which comes up frequently throughout the curriculum. The notice and wonders are great because it gets students thinking, it activates their prior knowledge, gets them sharing ideas, communicating with one another. A lot of times these warm-ups are completed whole group and we're all talking and sharing. Sometimes we're partnered up, sometimes we are in a small group, and other times we are writing down ideas and then sharing those. These discussions foster good communication, which is a life skill, not just a skill for math. It allows them to listen to other ideas. It lets them think about things they may not have thought about before. And for some students who may not have as much background knowledge as others, it allows them to learn from one another. It also helps them ask relevant questions. I've taught 1st grade math in the past, and getting relevant math questions can be a bit challenging. So having them practice what that means, what that sounds like, is really important. This is activity 1. This is an example of what students might be doing in activity 1. This lesson revolves around area and comparing area to different places that they are familiar with. So meter sticks were used in this lesson, so physical meter sticks are used and students are lining them up to get an visualization and understanding of what a kilometer means, because some students may understand that a little bit better than others. So getting out the meter sticks, having them line it up, we don't have 100 of them, but we can make some estimates based on the ones that we have. And then this activity allows students to explore those estimates and explain. You will notice that a lot of what they're doing is showing or explaining their reasoning, which is very important when it comes to assessments later. And this sharing and explaining could be verbal, it could be between students, it could be between students and teachers. That changes depending on the lesson and the design that the teacher implements. This activity is basically concrete because of the physical use of the meter sticks. It also begins representational stages by having students draw, sketch, make notes. Some students like to circle words that are important to them or draw pictures. This is activity 2. The student example that you will see is a student who is very thorough with her work. So this activity uses the kilometer area standards, but is now implementing reading comprehension into that, geography elements, and students are comparing the area of the Great Garbage Patch to states in our country. So it's really nice for them to have that familiarity with places they have traveled to or been or heard of, to connect the dots between the Great Garbage Patch and something that is more relevant to them. In order to answer this question, students needed to move more into the abstract stage of learning. So they are using the formula for area, which is length times width. So students are using that as they are multiplying. Students use the standard algorithm for multiplying multi-digit numbers in order to find their product. This is the way that most of us learned how to multiply, by moving through place values. Now this student, because she is as thorough as she is, you will see that she breaks down each of her products individually. So that is a way that is accepted and that works for her. That is not always something that works for every student. Some students don't need to do that, but for this young lady, it helps organize her thoughts. Because students are taught many different ways to solve math problems, they are encouraged to use what works for them. There's not one specific strategy that they are made to use. So multiple strategies are taught, and then whatever works for students, I tell them however you can get the right answer is what works for you, and that's what you should do. This is an example of the cool down. So cool downs are done daily, and they are done independently by students. It's a quick check for teachers to know what students are really understanding, what students might need a little bit of support. So I'm not sure if you can see the erasing that this student did, but the first time this fifth grade mathematician completed his work, he did not do the standard algorithm completely. So he got the wrong answer and then was able to go back and find his mistake and fix it. So a lot of what we do as teachers is not just having students do work, but having them do it correctly and practice correctly. Students, again, are frequently expected to show or explain their thinking. They are using labels, and hopefully what they are learning through CRA is that they not only understand plugging into an algorithm or a formula, but they understand why that works and why it is important. So here you see pictures of students in my classroom who are completing different parts of our curriculum's steps. So they're doing, we're sharing out when it comes to the warm-up. They might be working in partners or working on vertical whiteboard spaces, individual whiteboard spaces. Some students prefer scratch paper. Some students are writing on tables or plexiglass dividers. Students are up and moving and engaged. They are talking, they are collaborating, they are sharing their thinking. As you can see in the bottom right, this was a student who was super excited to share with the rest of the class when she finally mastered the standard algorithm, which is multi-steps and a lot going on. So when she mastered that, she asked if she could reteach it to the whole class so that everyone else could share in that excitement. So that was very cool.
All right, so all the work that we do leads to growth, right, and academic achievement. So a little update for this current school year. iReady is an assessment that we give 3 times a year, fall, winter, and spring. So to take a look at our growth from the fall to the winter, middle school is on here as well. We do the iReady assessment K to 8, and so that's why middle school is on this grid too. So you can see that we want to be in the top right quadrant. That is high performance, high growth. And so 3 of the buildings are there and 1 is right on the edge. Newville has high growth. They just need to move a little bit to the right to get that high performance as well. If we look at it by grade levels, that is where all of our grade levels are from fall to winter. All had high performance and high growth. Kindergarten is not on there because they do not take the assessment until November. So November is the first time, and then they'll take it in the spring rather than 3 times a year. So then we go to the PSSA, and we're going to take a look at some examples of questions that our students have that are similar. This is a 3rd grade question. So to save us a little bit of time, I also included some explanations in that bottom box on the right-hand corner. So if you read through question 8 as the example, letter A is correct. And if you read the explanation, our 3rd graders, or all 3rd graders, it's a multiple step problem. So they have to determine a correct expression for 1 dog per week, And then they have to know to multiply that by the number of dogs to be able to solve and give us what that expression is. So again, going back to what I had originally said with the amount of reading and comprehension, students have to be able to read this, understand what it's asking, to then be able to solve. This is an example of an open-ended question for our third graders. I'm going to pause and allow you to look at that. So again, hopefully, as you're looking at that problem and reading it, you're recognizing the amount of comprehension that has to go through our students' minds to even know where to begin to start to solve the math that they're asking to do. And this is an example of problems that are on the PSSAs. They have multiple step problems, and at the end, they do have to show or explain their thinking. And as you see, going from letter A to B to C and finally to D, while they're connected in a scenario, they're not necessarily connected in the math. So there is a lot going on in one problem for our third graders. This is a fifth grade example. So again, looking at the problem itself, a lot of reading. They do bold phrases sometimes, words sometimes. So greatest is bolded. So which phrase describes the greatest number of turkey and cheese sandwiches the deli can make, and whether there is any turkey or cheese remaining. So 2 steps. Again, they have to be able to figure out, do they have enough, how many sandwiches can they make, and is there turkey or cheese remaining? Correct answer is A. And you can read through the explanation on why A is correct and have a better understanding of the thinking that our students need to do. And the last example is an open-ended for 5th grade. So just like 3rd grade, multi-steps. This particular open-ended item does build as they go through, but still a lot of different math skills, reading skills, writing skills, comprehension skills, all included in the open-ended math. The last slide we have for you tonight is to share the 2024 PSSA math results. So this is last school year. The state average was 40.2% proficient or advanced, and you can see our scores. So I think it's definitely worth celebrating all 3 of our schools who are above the state average for last year's PSSA math results. Does anyone have any questions for me or either of the teachers that presented tonight?
Thank you, Mrs. Donato, and to your fellow colleagues and teachers. I have a few that I wrote down. First of all, is math taught almost every day?
Every day.
And how long would a lesson be in math for each of the grade levels?
I would say that an average lesson takes between 40 to 50 minutes.
The same for 5th grade?
It's a little longer in 5th grade. We have about 70 minutes.
What do we do if the child, excuse my language, but just is not getting it? What is the remedial steps, or how do we help that child, other than individual attention, to continue to get the basics and to get the advanced concept also?
So the first step that our teachers do is small group instruction, one-on-one help. We have paraprofessionals in our buildings as well that I know, I can speak to Newville. I know they're using their paraprofessionals specifically for math right now in the lower grades and doing a lot of great activities there. So it just varies from building to building and what resources that they have to be able to address those needs.
And for the child that may miss a day or even 3 days, how do we catch them up?
I don't know. No, so I think that is determined by the individual classroom teacher. And, you know, after a whole group lesson, being able to pull that child back and work with them one-on-one or in a small group, calling home, emailing families, sending things home with them to help them catch up if they've missed multiple days of school. Yeah, hold on. Ms. Steinley has a better answer.
I just wanted to add it. My other plug for those center days is also a great time for that's why I call it student-led, is in the sense that if there is a student that has missed a few days of school, I can catch them up, because that day is based around a section of the unit. So the 4, 5, 6 lessons that revolve around one section, I then have the day to either backtrack or move forward, enrich, and I can kind of base that on what the students need.
And when are they able to use calculators, or is that something we don't encourage?
No, they could use calculators. Again, that varies. But I forgot something very important to answer your question about our struggling students. One of the reasons we have iReady is also to really support those struggling students and fill in the gaps. So I talked about the iReady assessment being fall, winter, spring. In addition to that, there are individualized pathways. So when a student starts in the fall and they take their beginning of the year assessment, it builds an individualized pathway for each and every student, and they work on those pathways daily too. So that's helping to close that gap, and if they've missed multiple days of school or struggling, that can also help them.
Thank you. Other questions from the board? Comments? I think it's remarkable some of the skills and tasks that is being addressed and taught at such a young level in some ways, to be not only thinking about math and doing math, but also problem solving. So thank you for your efforts in the classroom, and Mrs. Donato, and helping us to move forward with our students. The results are encouraging. When I saw the 3rd grade up there on the one slide, to me that would be one of the grades that are most affected by COVID. Because those students had to go through kind of 2 years of being in our buildings, but yet not being with the teacher on a daily basis, one-on-one. So that number we need to rise, but there's time for growth also. So thank you for all the work you're doing.
I believe Mrs. Gutschall does want to say.
sorry.
No, go ahead.
When you asked about filling in gaps if students are absent, we have at Newville a time set aside near the end of our school day that is called WIN, which stands for What I Need. So during that time, we use the cool down data that I mentioned earlier to group students, and we are able to share among all the other 5th grade teachers, and I communicate pretty much daily, and we say, I need this student, this student, this student, and this student during WIN today. So we're able to work with them in a small group or even one-on-one to catch those students up on anything that they missed or to try to fill in gaps. Like Mrs. Donato said, iReady is amazing when it comes to that skill as well. So they are on their own pathway, and that pathway meets their needs exactly where they are. The other cool thing about iReady is teachers can assign lessons. So if I see that a student is not really getting multi-digit multiplication, I can assign specific lessons to that child for some extra practice.
Okay. Well, thank all 3 of you and all of our teachers for the math concentration and the work you're doing with our students to make them ready for future careers and success. Thank you.
Thank you.
Are there any other items from the floor for committee of the whole at this time? Do I have a motion to adjourn, please? Motion, Mr. Myers. Do I have a second? Second, Mr. Shea. There is no discussion. I assume everyone's voting in the affirmative unless I hear a negative or abstaining. I will adjourn the committee of the whole at this time. At this time, it is past 7:30, so we will move into the regular board meeting for April 22nd, 2025 of the Big Spring School District. It's past 7:30, so we'll open the meeting. I'll call the meeting to order. I'd ask you to please rise to the pledge of the flag if you order. I want to welcome everyone for coming this evening to your school board meeting. We as the directors are trying to do a lot of things at this time of year, working on budget, doing presentations, working with different contracts and things that working through the process. So I welcome everyone this evening. I'm told we have no student report, but we do have a Newville Elementary staff report that is going to be given at this time. So Newville Elementary staff, please. Thank you.
All right, good evening. My name is Heather Keller. I'm a second grade teacher at Newville.
I'm Danny Teeter. I'm a third grade teacher at Newville.
We are here with other teachers from Newville Elementary to share a video with you tonight about how Newville is engaged through the 6 C's. We've been doing so much at Newville, so what we have is just a snippet of some of the great programs and great things that we're doing in our building. So we'll let that get started, and then we'll speak to you more when it's finished. It's right here.
Effective Ed helps provide and build social skills for students who may not already have the skill base. Effective education gives students the opportunity to interact with their peers within the classroom to lay the foundation to become outstanding citizens.
Hi, and I'm here with our art teacher at Newville Elementary, Mrs. Keel. Now, tell us about the growth you get to see in our students' creativity throughout the elementary careers.
Well, I am very lucky because I get to see a lot of things. It starts with the basics in kindergarten when they start holding crayons and using scissors. They explore color, line, shape. And at this stage, we really just want to build confidence and help the students feel excited about creating. I do have a unique opportunity to watch them build.
And what I love about collaborating within our fourth grade classroom when we're in reading is that all of our stories there present an opportunity to engage in just absolutely amazing discussions, allowing such incredible engagement from every one of our students.
I'm so thankful for the Cal Ripken grant because it has allowed my students to learn some pre-coding and programming skills at an early age while working on skills that we're working on in the classroom. So right now we've been working on counting money, so we put some coins and amounts under that they practice programming too. We've done clocks with time, shapes, math facts, all kinds of things that you can use it for, so it's a great way to integrate the two things. We're thankful for this grant.
I feel that with my collaboration with Mrs. O'Donnell, my students have grown in their ability to communicate with their peers. It has also given them confidence to express their ideas clearly. What's great about our phonics program is that it aligns with our reading resources, which are our GEOs. And in our phonics program, students are able to master sounds and really practice those tapping and blending of words, which in turn helps them during our reading programs when we're in our small group readings with GEOs. Both of these really help students when it comes to our writing because it gives them real experiences that they can connect to, but it also helps their writings become more fluent. Coming from a first grade perspective, it has been really cool to see students take what they're learning in both the phonics and reading programs and then transforming that into their own writings from their real world experiences.
Well, we hope you enjoyed the video. I want to give a big shout out to Lauren Swigert, who put the video together for us. How most of us were raised, it was a lot of sit and get when we were growing up and going to school. It is not sit and get anymore. We try to engage the kids as much as possible. It's a family, it's a community where we all have to work together and all be active participants to grow these learners. So thank you for having us. One final thing, I did pass out invitations to the school board, but if you look around the community, on May 20th, Newville Elementary is having a time capsule opening, and everyone is invited to attend. It's during our Spotlight on Learning time from 4:30 to 6:30. We will be unveiling what was in the old time capsule that was buried in the year 2000, and we will be getting ready to bury another time capsule to be opened at a later time. There will be the milkshake trucks and food prepared by the Boy Scouts and many other activities for the community to come and enjoy. So please come join us. Thank you.
Thank you for the many exciting activities that help our students engage and keep them involved in the community as well as with one another. And it's very exciting for me to see all the things they're doing. So thank you again. Dr. Dante, do you have any reading of correspondence for this evening? Thank you. Recognition of visitors. You hope everyone has signed in the clipboard in the back for tonight's meeting. At this time, we'll move into public comment. Donna, do we have some public comment cards, please? Thank you. Laura Kaufman, please.
Good evening.
I have two questions or statements, things to think about this evening. Big Spring School District, BSSD. The website that the survey for the DIG committee that is hosted on is bssd.me. That certainly gives the appearance that it is a district-owned, district-run website. However, it is not. It is owned and run by one of the board members, Seth Corman. That domain also hosts several other pages, including several campaign websites. So I feel that that's not very good optics if we are sending a survey to our families and it is hosted on a website that is not run by the school district. And it also calls into question the validity of any survey that might be hosted on a private individual's webpage. On that webpage, as I mentioned, is someone's personal campaign page in which they mention policy 004.1, which we may recall is student representative to the board. That was brought to the school board meeting in January. It has disappeared. Concerned because at that board meeting, multiple board members stressed how important it was to get high school students involved with the board, what a great experience that is for them. The elections were to be held in April. So far, that policy has not reappeared for board approval. So just wondering what happened to that. Thank you.
Thank you, Lawrence, please.
Perhaps I should sit closer. Thank you for having me. Last meeting, you all approved or ratified the settlement for a lawsuit. Just want to I don't know the numbers. I know my numbers were 81,000, and I've heard that yours were approximately 150. I don't know if it's exact. But let's just round it and say a lawsuit that cost $230,000. Think about that. For me sitting right about there and silently holding up a sign and watching the video up there, and I figured, there are people in the video who might want to see it. So I turned it around once so they could see it. And you trespassed me. Do you realize that $230,000 could have all been avoided if you would have simply responded to the letter my attorney sent to you in March? But it went on for 3 years. Why? Because it finally took you guys 3 years to admit your liability and accept responsibility, to admit your guilt. And if you look at the settlement, you guys admitted guilt, and I appreciate that. That was big. Why did you do it? Because the trial where you were doomed to lose was fast approaching. Why did it go for 3 years? Well, one, because you refused to admit liability. But two, your attorneys, stock and leader, every time around they would ask for a delay. That was their strategy. It was to try and run me out of money. That's another reason why your bills are so high. When they file 8 motions that are doomed to fail on the same day, they're trying to run me out of money. But they didn't. You know why? Because when I started it, I talked to my wife, and we agreed, that was my house money, like $50,000 of it at least, my house money. I did not want to live in a community. I didn't want to own a house in a community where the government officials could silence free speech. It was worth fighting for. And for each one of you here, I fought for your right to express your speech freely here. I invested money in you so that you had the right to do that.
So you praise Jesus.
Yes, praise him. He is worthy of it. But here's the point. Free speech must be fought for. And it was for your benefit just as much as it is for mine. So I encourage you, next time, settle it early. Take care of it early. And I'm going to just add one more thing. When my attorney got something from the court, I would get it within 10 minutes, and then I would get a follow-up on what it meant about 15 minutes later. Did Stockton Leader do the same for you? Thank you.
This is for your ego.
Sally,
I would like to address an item on the agenda tonight. It's 10E, a recommended ratification for the RFP process for transportation. Now, this lays out the suggestion that there be a motion to ratify the RFP process for transportation services. The RFP, when you click on it, is a schedule that calls for essentially trying to gather bids. But it seems to me that there was not any notice in the minutes of the school board meetings outlining discussion about doing this RFP specifically or for the transportation contract that was coming up. I think from what I've heard and gathered and seen what's online that there's a failure of the process in trying to exercise this RFP. It seems to me that your intention was that you would let a contract at tonight's meeting. There's not been any discussion other than at the Finance Committee meeting, I believe, which wasn't specifically recorded in the minutes, about who bid or what proposals were received. I'm not sure that it was actually publicly advertised or noticed, and I've heard a lot of rumors floating around the community about this process, and I would encourage the board not to ratify what appears to be a failed RFP process, but rather follow the process of what most elected boards would do, which would be you did not receive the proposals or bids that you expected, and in your advertisement you always provide a general provision for rejecting any and all bids. So I would suggest that the more appropriate way to proceed would be to reject the bids and start over on this RFP process, because it seems to me that there are various failures that have happened along the way since January to now in this process. I would also like to follow up and point out that as of the middle of the day, when I checked the court docket for Cumberland County, the district still has done nothing to resolve the outstanding 2022 case that was filed by Flynn and Rhineford against the district. And I believe you should address that too.
thank you for your thoughts. That ends the public comment period at this time. Move into approval of minutes. Do I have a motion to approve the date committee, committee of the whole, and the board meeting minutes for April 7th, 2025 as presented? Motion, Mr. Myers, do I have a second? Second, Mr. Shady. Any discussion? Hearing none, I assume everyone's voting in the affirmative unless I hear any negative or abstaining. Payment of bills. Mr. Shady, treasurer, please.
Payment of bills, general fund procurement card, $28,864.87. General Fund, checks, ACH, and wires, $9,618,503.63. Special revenue, $8,648.65. Capital Projects Reserve Fund, $12,707.44. Cafeteria Fund, $150,942.28. Student Activities, $48,600.99. Total amount of all funds, $9,868,330.86. Motion to approve the payment of bills as presented.
Thank you, Mrs. Shea. Do I have a second? Second, Mr. Myers. Any discussion? Hearing none, I assume everyone's voting in the affirmative unless I hear a negative or abstaining. Moving on to 7B, budgetary transactions. Motion to approve the following budgetary transfers, October 2024 to March 2025. Do I have a motion to approve? Motion, Mr. Myers. Do I have a second? Second, Mrs. Shea. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, I assume we're all voting in the affirmative unless I hear a negative or abstaining. Treasurer's Fund Report. The General Fund Report through the earned interest year-to-date student activities. These reports are noted until they can be looked further into and until we can ratify that they are correct. Year-to-date General Fund Report and year-to-date taxes. The administration prepared a year-to-date General Fund Report and the year-to-date taxes for the board. The General Fund Report looks at our revenue and expenses for this year against the budget and compares those amounts to last year. The year-to-date tax summary shows the monthly collections and the cumulative collections and compares that to the 2 previous years. The year-to-date General Fund and tax reports are noted as well. Moving into old business. Do we have any old business from the floor? Hearing none, moving into new business, personnel action items. Unless there is an objection, we will combine all new business personnel action items listed under 9A through 9I. Yes. Okay. Yes. Can we first get a motion to approve and then I'll take that? You want to separate out 9H, is that correct? Okay. Both items or just one of the two? Okay, so do we need the wrestling or the cheer program? Which do you want to take out?
Microphone, please.
It would be the mentor. It would be the last on the list of the mentors on page 6.
That would be a co-elementary grade level leader, is that correct?
No. 9H starts at the top, on the top of page 6, because I think there's a couple pages of 9H, which makes it confusing. So 9H at the very top, on the top of page 6, there is the entry for some extra staff positions.
So you'd like to remove the last bullet point, is that correct?
That's correct.
Is anyone opposed to removing, or not opposed, but does anyone object to her removing it at this time? Okay, then we'll vote on the rest unless there's other objections. Okay, then we're going to combine 9A through 9I into one motion. Do I have a motion to approve 9A through 9I, but omit the 4th bullet point under 9H? Motion, Mr. Myers. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second, Mr. Corman. Do I have any discussion? Hearing none, I assume everyone's voted affirmative for 9A through 9I, except for 9H, the 4th bullet point. Motion carries. So now we'll vote on 9H, the 4th bullet point. Do I have a motion to approve? I have a motion to approve, Mr. Myers. Do I have a second? Second, Mrs. Shea. Do I have any other discussion? Hearing none, I assume all those voting in favor, unless I hear a negative or abstaining.
No.
One no is reported. Is there any others?
No.
2 no's. Motion carries. New business action items. Moving into 10A, recommended approval of updated policies. The administration proposes the updated policies listed below. 216 student records, 216.1 supplemental discipline records, and 218.2 terroristic threats, action threats, and threat assessment. The administration recommends the Board of School Directors approve the policies as presented. Do I have a motion to approve? Motion, Mr. Myers. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second, Mr. Foreman. Dr. Bronte, I just assume that these have been looked at by our solicitor, at least they are approved from that standpoint. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Thank you. And thank you, Mr. King, for looking at these. I have a motion and a second. Do I have any discussion? Hearing none, I assume that everyone's voting in the affirmative unless I hear a negative or abstain. Moving on to 10B, curriculum resource for continued usage. Mrs. Donato is recommending Power School Performance Matters for the 25-26 school year for grades K through 12. The administration recommends the Board of School Directors approve the program resource as presented. Do I have a motion, please? Motion, Mr. Myers. Do I have a second? Second, Mr. Shea. Do I have a discussion? Hearing none, I assume everyone's voting in the affirmative unless I hear a negative or abstain. 10C, recommended approval of DIG survey and letter of disenrollment and post-graduation survey. The DIG committee recommends approval of an updated disenrollment survey, explanation letter for distribution 1 month prior to disenrollment or when district is notified, whichever is later, including all disenrollments from the school year and all disenrollments moving forward. The committee also recommends the administration begins a post-graduation survey to monitor graduate success and find areas for improvement. Do I have a motion for this survey to be completed? Motion, Mrs. Booth. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second, Mr. Corman. Do I have discussion? Hearing none, I assume everyone's voting in the affirmative and administering the surveys unless I hear a negative or abstain. I have one no. Do I have others? One no is recorded. 10D, recommended approval of the 25-26 agreement and membership. Dr. Bronte, Superintendent, reviewed the capital area intermediate unit agreement for school-age educational services for the 25-26 school year. I believe that is no additional cost. Is that correct, Dr. Bronte?
Yeah, the overall CIA contract is flat funded.
Thank you. Mrs. Donato reviewed the 25-26 agreement for KO services by the capital area unit, and Dr. Bronte, Superintendent, researched the PSBA dues invoice for membership renewal for the 25 school year. The administration recommends the Board of School Directors approve the agreements and membership renewal as presented. Do I have a motion, please? Motion, Mr. Myers. Do I have a second? Second, Mrs. Shea. Do I have any discussion? Hearing none, I assume we're all voting in the affirmative unless I hear a negative or abstaining. 10E, recommended ratification of the RFP process for transportation. Motion to ratify the RFP process for transportation services for Big Spring School District, initiated in anticipation of the expiration of the district's existing contract. We are not voting on any specific contract this evening. We are just voting on that we're ratifying the process of the RFP as we move forward. Do I have a motion for the ratification process for transportation? Motion, Mr. Shea. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second, Mr. Foreman. Any discussion? Yes, Mr. Foreman.
Dr. Bronte, could you explain the RFP process, since there were questions here on the air a little bit on that?
We had an expiring transportation contract, and the logical thing for competitive services was to bring it out to RFP. We did have public awareness of that at 3 different meetings. It wasn't spoken at length, and it wasn't an official item, but I did mention it in my report that we would be moving to an RFP process. And since we moved through that RFP process, I think we've been very transparent and reflective of opening bids and following the timeline that was communicated.
And with the communication, where we're all going to communicate that to?
We had it on our website and social media.
Thank you.
We did receive bids, but there's not been a decision or anything brought to the board yet as far as when we need to decided who we're going to go with and at what cost, correct?
That's correct. We had 2 comprehensive bids for transportation services. We're working through that financial and logistical analysis, and we hope to bring a recommendation to the board on the May 5th meeting.
Right. And the current contract does not stop until after the school year, correct?
That's correct.
Any other questions from the floor? Hearing none, we'll vote. All those in favor, I assume, are voting in the affirmative unless I hear a negative or abstaining on the RFP agreement. Next, recommended appointment of the Board of School Director. Motion to approve Dr. Allison Malott to the Big Spring School District to fill the spot left by Mr. Over, who resigned, and replacing Mr. Over until elections are held this coming November. Do I have a motion to appoint? Motion, Mr. Myers. Do I have a second? Second, Mr. Shea. Do I have discussion?
It's my understanding that we also have another person that has given their application for this process. What would be the process as far as do we go into executive session since there's another person? We don't have to do that. We can pretty much nominate who we choose. Correct. Okay. So I guess we should ask her. Does anybody want to nominate that person?
I would like to nominate Ms. Bingler for the position of school board director. I'm sorry, it's feeling Melissa. It's Melissa Bingler.
We have Melissa Bigler has been nominated, and also Allison Malott would be on the ballot for us to nominate one of the 2. Mr. King, are we in accordance that we would do a roll call vote for one of those 2? Is that proper?
Yes, I think we need to straighten the motion up because the motion right now is to appoint Dr. Malott, I believe.
Yes.
So if the person who made the motion, the person who seconded it, with consent, we could have an election as between those 2 candidates.
Okay.
We could amend that motion.
Okay.
With the permission of the board.
Well, let's deal with the motion first, and then we'll decide if we want to go to executive or whether we're going to have discussion of what we're going to do. So, you made the motion, Mr. Myers, correct? Are you okay with adding in the second individual to possibly be considered?
Objection.
Yes.
As far as I understand, this is not in line with the process that is described in our school policy for nominating someone to replace.
I don't believe school policy dictates elected officials.
I would like some clarification on what our school board policy is, because as well, on the agenda, there is no mention of a second nominee, which should be present for the community to be able to make public comment on, as per the Sunshine Act. So if someone could explain this process, because this is not in line with the understanding.
I'm happy to address that if you like. The agenda item tonight is recommending appointment of board of school director, and there's a motion on there to appoint Dr. Allison Malott. The board, there is no specific policy at Big Spring that would dictate how exactly this would be filled. Then the school code is wide open on this issue, so the board can adopt whatever method it wants in terms of electing a replacement school director. So the board can either proceed with the motion to appoint Dr. Malott, or it can open the floor for other nominations. There was a process in place for applying and interviewing, as you know, And so it's up to each individual board member as to what their position is with respect to that.
What if they miss that time for applying an interview?
Well, it's up to each individual board member. If you think that's, that's a requirement, then obviously you would go in one direction. If you don't mind the nomination of the second person, then that's up to you. For example, there could be, can everybody hear me okay? So there could be circumstances where you only have one applicant. I don't know either of these applicants, so I'm not referring to them specifically. But it could be a circumstance where you have only one applicant, and you wouldn't be bound to elect that applicant. So the board is free, once you have this on the agenda, the board is free to proceed as you see fit. So you can either proceed in one way or the other. And that's why I suggested that the motion was originally, as written, was to appoint Dr. Malott, I believe. So you could proceed in that direction, or you could revise the motion and allow for the nomination of Dr. Malott and someone else if you want.
Point of personal information.
Yes, sir.
My question is, Melissa Bigler was just nominated also. Has she been interviewed for this position?
Neither individual has been interviewed.
Neither.
The process started at the last meeting. You can check the record. I, as president, explained the process that we were going to try to follow. And the process was that we were going to announce we accepted Mr. Hoover's resignation because he went to Borough Council. He cannot hold two elected positions at the same time.
Understood.
Upon the acceptance, and his letter, to make it clear, was not delivered until after the previous board meeting. So we did not take action, we did not approve or do anything else between board meetings. We then received his letter, we accepted his letter and accepted his resignation. Then that started the clock of 30 days. We must appoint someone within a 30-day period to serve out the term of Mr. Hoover. Mr. Hoover chose not to run for re-election next fall or in the primary. At that point, we advertised in the paper, and it was also on social media, that a position was open. We did receive a resume and a letter of intent from Dr. Malott. We received that. Today, at approximately 10:24, a letter was submitted to the board members expressing interest by the other individual, Melissa Bigler, that she would be interested in the position. Did not receive a resume, nor did we receive it during the time frame it was prescribed. And that brings us to tonight. So the recommendation that is on the board minutes, or the board agenda, was crafted last week, so that it could be public as of Thursday, whenever it was posted. When was it posted, Dr. Ronte? Last Thursday, I believe. Wednesday it was posted. The community could see. It's been out there since Wednesday. It is now Tuesday. And now we are to where we're at this evening. That's the process as I know it. Yes, your name, sir, please.
Bob Yangst.
Yes, thank you.
Okay.
So the process that we did, and I can attest to this process because I was appointed 6 years ago in the past. I was interviewed. I had to submit a letter, submitted a resume. I was interviewed by the board. At that time, there were 6 candidates, and I was selected to serve out Mr. Wilbur Wolf, deceased, honored him, for 2 years. Then I ran for election, was elected for 4 years. So I know there was a process that we did in the past. I believe that was done 2 other times when Blasco and somebody else, I think, went through a similar selection. Tonight, Mr. King says we're a little bit at the liberty, we as a board can decide what we want. We do have someone that did what we asked, and then we had a letter we received today.
Okay.
Any board members want to refute any of that information?
No, but I suggest that we have an interview since we have a second candidate like we did before. Is it possible that we can have an interview for the next meeting and then
We will be out of time, Mr. Fisher, because 30 days started at the last board meeting on a Monday night. And today we're on a Tuesday, and if we go another meeting, I'm afraid we're out of 30 days. If I'm wrong, I'll stand corrected, but we have to fulfill it within 30. If we don't fill it within 30 days, then the courts kick in and they can appoint and someone can petition and it can become a long, drawn-out process that we may not have as much input as we did before. And to have an interview process would require, in my opinion, a special meeting that we would have to advertise, plus we'd have to have as many of us that choose to be there, interview the candidate, and then we'd still have to come up with a recommendation to have approved. Am I right on that, Mr. King? Dr. Durante, as far as we know? Okay. So that's where we're at in the process.
Objection. I'm standing by my objection under the Sunshine Act that if this item is changed, then public comment needs to be reopened.
Your objection is noted. Thank you. I would ask.
Thank you. That answered my question as far as I was wondering if one nominee was interviewed and the most recent nominee not interviewed, and you clarified all that. Thank you very much.
The difference is the one person did it through the process we asked and sent us a resume, the other person just sent us a letter. I would ask, does any member of the board want to go to executive session? We cannot decide on the person, but we could discuss this at a moment now. It is the last item on our agenda before information and board reports. And then we would report back and hopefully be able to make an appointment.
Mr. Wardle, if I may, and if I recall correctly, when you were up for nomination for that position, you sent in a resume, you were interviewed publicly along with the other candidates, that the public had a chance to see, understand, and learn your qualifications and your intent. Is that the protocol and process for this evening?
Well, and there was more than one candidate.
All the candidates were interviewed publicly with the public being present. That was transparency. This is not transparency.
That was the intent of the board in my situation at that time. The intent of the board this evening, I can't speak for everyone at this time. So we could either go to executive, we could set up a special meeting, we could vote this evening on one of the two without any more discussion. It's up to the board. I can only take the vote. Yes, Mr. Plummer?
I'm just going to add that if you recall, like I thought we were going to have some sort of interview process, and then this was just showed up and there was no interviews done.
Well, the one letter we did not receive until 10/24 today.
And then we didn't interview the first applicant either.
We have a resume, they did not interview, you are correct.
I mean, that's standard practice when you're hiring somebody for a position, is to have an interview at least.
Hiring. You're appointing.
Okay, we had a motion and a second to appoint this person, Dr. Allison Malott. Do I have further discussion or recommendations or amendments? Fine.
You can't go into executive session on the appointment of a lady school woman.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. King.
Because they're not an employee.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. King, for your input. The comment made by our solicitor was we cannot go to executive session because that person is not an employee, they are only a member, a member of the community. Okay. Quickly, yes.
I think there is a procedure for certain things. And I think that it is noble that both of these women have decided that maybe they would like to serve. However, I feel that this procedure has to be followed. Dr. Malott has offered to serve. She will serve until November. If Melissa Bigler would like to run then and go according to procedure, then that's wonderful. I appreciated Dr. Malott's letter to the editor in the Valley Times, which explained a lot of her qualifications and the whys she wanted to serve. It became very clear. I think it's very clear-cut as to procedure, timing, as in Hamlet. Readiness is all, and Dr. Malat seems ready. And so I urge the board to follow the procedure. And if Melissa Bigler is still interested, she may run in November with Dr. Malat and anyone else from Newville Borough. Thank you.
Okay, we have a motion and a second on the floor. Yes, Mr. Corman?
Second that, and I second that.
Mr. Shea originally seconded the first one. Yes. Mr. Anderson?
My only comment is to this is that the time period for the application for the public, I mean, it was just a few short days of notice, and it didn't give enough time for the public to apply for that position. So that's my only objection to this, is that there was very little time frame for those people that may have thought about it, and then when the time came, that's when they decided to write the letter. As far as discussion, I don't know. I don't know what the right course of action would be right now. Is it possible that if the two candidates are here, that we could hear from them? Is the board open to that?
You have a motion and a second. You have a motion on the floor.
We're still discussing it. I mean, if we can allot them a certain time period to speak.
We can do that. We can do that. Are both candidates here? Yes. Is the other candidate with us also? Show your hand. Okay. Is that the wish of the board?
I like that. So if they're here, let's do it now. So we have a clear conscience on this.
Okay, to be fair, I have something behind my back, either a 1 or a 2. I'm just going to look at that, and that's how we're going to draw. Is that fair, Mr. King?
Yes, sir.
Okay, very good. I don't want any partialism. I'll let Mrs. Malat, since she applied first, to choose either number 1 or 2, and then the other candidate would have the first or second. Mrs. Malat, would you like number 1 or number 2?
I'll take 2.
Okay? Number 2, I did not change. So you're second, the other candidate is first. You may go ahead and present. I'm going to ask if there are comments. I think you should be able to say what you need to in 3 minutes. Is that fair with both candidates? Since it's kind of impromptu. Sure, 3 minutes. Please, to the podium. We welcome your comments and we thank you for being willing to serve and being here.
Hello, I'm Melissa Bigler. I'm the proud parent of 2 Big Spring Bulldogs. Mackenzie's in 7th grade, Mimi's in 4th grade. My husband and I own a cabinetry business, and I also work as a licensed realtor. I have my bachelor's degree in social work from Shippensburg University. Serving on the school board is something that I've been thoughtfully considering for some time. When Mr. Over resigned, I saw it as a timely opportunity to contribute more directly to the community I care so deeply about. I'm passionate about supporting our schools at every level, from students and educators to administrators and taxpayers. Having followed the school board meetings closely, I believe my visions align well with the current board members. My goal is to help maintain strong fiscal responsibility while ensuring our students have access to high-quality education and the resources they need to thrive. Every student deserves the chance to grow, achieve, and reach their full potential. I believe I can make a meaningful difference in our district by bringing a balanced perspective
as a parent, a business owner, and a community member. I'm committed to listening, learning, and leading with integrity to support thoughtful discussions that benefit all stakeholders in our schools. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for your willingness to share and your willingness to serve if you were selected. Now, Dr. Malat, please.
Good evening. I didn't realize I had to prep for an interview or presentation tonight, but here we are. I know Melissa well. She's lovely. Our daughters are friends. I think either of us have invested a lot of time and service into the community. I have a pretty strong education background, so I have a K through 6 teaching certificate from Shippensburg University, master's degree in curriculum instruction, and my doctorate is from Liberty, also in curriculum and instruction. I work at Shippensburg University teaching our pre-K through grade 4 teachers, so pre-service teachers, and then I supervise student teachers as part of that process. So about every district within a 60-minute radius I spend time in. And so I get the opportunity to see a lot of different curriculums and see how teachers in other districts are implementing things. Hear a lot about policies as I'm a Big Spring grad, got 4 kiddos in the district, so I have 2 at the high school level, 1 at the middle school, and 1 at the elementary level. I've experienced our district special education programming through my children. I've experienced our gifted education and our general education. So I think as a mom, I bring a really unique perspective from those different angles. Trying to think what else. My random dissertation was on educator retention. And so I am really passionate about keeping good teachers in schools and building school climates that are conducive to keeping those good teachers in schools, because if you've looked at the numbers, we are losing educators at a surprising rate, specifically in math and science. And if you look even in your agenda tonight, we've got a science teacher that's coming in on an emergency cert. And so you're going to see that more and more because we aren't training enough math and science teachers. So as part of my work at the university, I chair a $1.4 million NOIS grant, which is aimed at educating secondary ed math teachers. And so as I'm talking to teachers, we talk a lot about what they should be looking at when they come into a district, right? What they should be looking for. And some of the things that we really encourage them to look for are a supportive administration. And I think you find that from our district administrators, but I think you also find that in our community. Our community has this tendency to rally around each other. And I honestly think, I don't know that you can make a bad choice between Melissa and I. I think we both can bring different things to the table that would be of value to the district. And I mean, if you pick me, I'd be honored to serve. If you don't, no hard feelings. I'll still show up and say, go Bulldogs.
Thank you, Dr. Malata. Thank you to both candidates, not only for your willingness to serve, but willing to express your ideas and views in such a short time and kind of impromptu. Go back to the decision of we, the board, have an obligation to appoint someone to fill Mr. Over's spot. This will be until next November, until the general election is held, and then the person will be elected for a 4-year term. Do we have other discussion or requests, or are we going to do a roll call vote?
Did Mr. Myers change his motion?
Mr. Myers, did you change your motion? I believe you had changed it. You were going to allow both candidates to be on the ballot, is that correct, or on the selection? Or do you want to withdraw your motion and then get another motion? You will add the second person? Was it Mr. Foreman or Mr. Shea? Mr. Shea. Second. So now we have 2 people nominated or encouraged to be appointed, Dr. Allison Malott and also Ms. Melissa Baker. Is that correct, Melissa? Do I have your name right? Thank you. Okay. So we should go on a roll call, that would be appropriate.
Yes, each board member needs to vote publicly and identify the candidate they support.
So Mrs. Booth, could you call the roll, please? Okay, Mrs. Booth, our secretary is going to call the roll unless there's any more amendments or objections. Each member should either say Melissa Ziegler or Allison Malott. We all good on what we're doing? Okay, go to your conscience, go to what you feel is correct. You. Okay. Mrs. Booth will announce each board member, and each of us will then say our vote, and if there's a tie, then we'll decide what to do next.
Okay, so we'll be expecting one of the two names of the candidate is correct. Okay. Mr. David Fisher.
Melissa Ziegler.
Mr. Torman.
Melissa Ziegler.
Mr. Kenny Fisher.
Mr. Ziegler.
Mr. Frank Myers.
Dr. Malott.
Mrs. Shea.
Melissa Ziegler.
Mr. Ward.
Dr. Malott.
Mr. Higginseal.
Mrs. Stickler.
And myself, Melissa Ziegler. That is 2 for Dr. Malott, and 6 for Mrs. Ziegler.
Mrs. Bigger, congratulations. You are a new board member. We need to swear in, and she can see at the next meeting. Is that correct? Done? Right. So, Mrs. Bigger, you don't need to come into the office at your convenience when it's appropriate. You need to in 10 days. Probably within the next 10 days. We have papers to sign, code of ethics. You have to be sworn in, that can be taken care of here, and then you will be seated for the next meeting. And then we'll serve from then until the November primary, or November election. And then after the November election, whoever is the person elected through the general election process will be sworn in and start at the December meeting. Any questions on that process? Okay, thank you for being here. Also, thank you to Dr. Malott for being here and expressing this evening, and we've solved that issue. Mr. King, everything went well, I presume?
Yes, it's all set.
Very good, thank you. Okay, moving on to new business information items. The CAI annual election ballot is in our packets. We're encouraged to vote and return that as soon as possible by Friday, June 13th. Contracted staff updates. Dr. Sanders has received following contracted staff resignations. Leave requests, we have 2 of them there for your reading. And now we'll move into board reports. Athletic Council, Mr. Ken Fisher.
Next meeting is June 4th.
Thank you. Building and Property Committee, Mr. David Fisher.
Nothing.
Seth Corman, California Area Media Unit.
The next meeting is on the 24th.
Coming on Perry Area CTC. We have a meeting next Monday. Mr. Hickenstill and I both plan on being in attendance. We have received bids back, and we're in the process of getting them approved by the township and other agencies, and hopefully we will break ground and report along. Many of our students are taking the NOCI test, which is the National Occupancy Testing Institute, and I actually helped administer that test at Cumberland Valley last week for their agricultural students. We had 16 of them there just for CV, but the Cumberland Parish students are working through that process to get certification, and many of our students have been accepted for next year that have applied, so that process is moving forward. Mrs. Booth, the committee.
Yes, our next meeting is May 5th. We expect to be survey that will go out to disenrolled students and families that recently disenrolled, which I think will provide a more valid and important data for us moving forward to make changes in real time.
Thank you, Mrs. Booth. Mrs. Booth, Finance Committee, anything?
No, we had a meeting tonight, and we will continue working on this budget on May 19th.
Thank you. Future Ready Comprehensive Plan, Mr. Fisher, anything?
Nothing at this time, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Fisher. Policy Review Development Committee, Mr. Foreman.
I apologize for the cancellation today. I had all tendencies to want to have that meeting. However, I did have a dump of some legal documents. Thank the solicitor for those. I'm going to be taking a lot of the suggestions and applying them to current policy. So I wanted some more time to work on that. So thank you very much for those documents.
Mr. Foreman, South Central Trust.
Nothing at this time.
Mr. Fisher, Tax Collection. Mr. Foreman, Wellness Committee.
Nothing at this time.
Any future board agenda items from the floor? Superintendent's report. Dr. Bronte, please.
Thank you, Newville team. Very much appreciate the video and all your hard work on a daily basis. It's much appreciated. Thank you, Mrs. Donato. Thank you, Mrs. Gutschall, for presenting some math problems that I would have a difficult time solving. I'm only mediocre intelligence, but thank you for bringing that to light for us. District-wide enrollment updates. March 31st, we had 2,352. Today we have 2,355. 90 kindergarten registrations at this point, 33 from Mount Rock, 24 from Newville, and 33 from Oak Flat. The deadline to attend kindergarten registration today is May 1st, so you must be registered prior to May 1st in order to participate in those kindergarten days. Those days are as follows: Newville on May 2nd, Mount Rock on May 7th, and Oak Flat on May 8th. Recently, our FBLA team competed in competitions at the Giant Center in Hershey, and congratulations to all of our participants, but specifically to Cole Klein and Will Thompson, both placed 8th in sports and entertainment management. A couple dates to remember coming up here soon. This Thursday, the high school has its Spotlight on Learning from 3 to 7, so again, that'll be more celebration of our academic experiences and resource providing within the high school. And as I mentioned earlier, we're hopeful to have a board recommendation for the transportation RFP at our next meeting. That's all I have, sir.
Thank you, Dr. Bronte. Business from the floor, board member comments. Mr. David Fisher.
Nothing.
Thank you, Mr. Fisher. Mr. Corman.
Nothing at this time.
Thank you, Mr. Corman. Mr. Ken Fisher.
Nothing at this time, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Fisher. Mr. Myers.
I just want to say that I'm very disappointed in mankind. I don't see how we cannot let politics come in education. We cannot let that happen. We specifically, I'm not saying that one person is a better person than the other, but there was clearly a clear distinction between the qualifications of a couple of individuals. And we screwed up. I'm sorry to say that, but we screwed up.
Thank you, Mr. Myers, for your comments. Mrs. Shade. Thank you, Mrs. Shade. Mrs. Booth. Thank you, Mrs. Booth. Mr. Epinstein. Thank you, Mr. Epinstein. In closing this evening, we follow the democratic process. That's one of the roots of our society. We may not always agree with who is the candidate, but we must represent the process of elections, and we must support those candidates that are elected for that office. This past week, I had the opportunity to support a family. Some of you may have saw the video. Our governor, Mr. Shapiro's house was attacked. And my dad, and me and myself, went to the firefighters' meeting that was to honor those firefighters. And we were able to present a coin of our engine and a letter and a message and a scripture to the governor and his wife. I was in tears because I felt so much compassion for the children that were in that house when it was attacked. We must have compassion for all of us tonight. We made decisions. We may not agree with those decisions, but we move forward as a community, as a society, and as a country. We have elections coming up. We have summer coming up for our students. But the most important point for all of us sitting here, in the audience and as a board, is for those students that are going to graduate, that are going to become successful citizens in our society. We need to have a positive attitude and support them and help them move forward, as well as the other 11 grades plus kindergarten that moves forward. I was encouraged by the results of our math tonight. I believe those COVID years hurt our kids, and getting them to be brought up to speed and make effort is great. So I commend those who presented this evening. I also want to wish each of you a happy spring and summer. As we have warm temperatures this week, I see the students outside, not just athletes, but the band, the choral concert, the band concert, all the activities that are going to take place in the next 30 days before graduation. I hope you as a community and you as individuals can support as many as possible. If I have other comments, I would like to adjourn. Do I have a motion to adjourn, please? Motion, Mrs. Shea, do I have a second? Second, Mrs. Booth. There is no discussion. I assume we're all voting in the affirmative unless I hear a negative or abstain. Thank you and have a good evening. Motion and meeting adjourned.
Did you always leave so I would try to so they're not allowed to be. I didn't know. Figured it out.
It worked all night.
Hi there. Yeah, it worked for all three of us. Yes, it did. We put a magic touch on it. Oh. See, it wasn't me. You always have bad batteries.
Yeah.
I hear you're helping with the testing tomorrow. Thanks for that. Hello.
Thanks for reminding me that's tomorrow.
You're welcome. How are you?
Nick, good to see you.
Good job.
It's the other.
Well, maybe he was watching. He was in the back.
Yeah, Kim.
Oh, that would make sense. Yeah.
Oh, really?
Oh, I didn't know if he was watching, like,
Same.
through, I don't know, whatever. But
I can-
and he was Wizard of Oz. Right, he's always well
We should get up to speed on it. Would you? I'll let you know. And you send me the name, I'll look it up in the document. She's worked out. Huh? Yeah. What is one of those two sorry. On the ballot. Is that right? I think so. Yeah, well, seem like it. See you later. See you, bro. Safe travels.